What is going on, guys? It is Luke the Lobster here. Obviously, I look like a straight up lobster at this point with all of this stuff here, but I could see maybe wear a wider brimmed hat or some sunscreen. Yeah, guys, I got brutalized by the sun today. Yesterday, didn't have any sunscreen on, was out there for at least a little bit. I mean, I was out there 3 or 4 hours, wasn't 6 or 7 like I was out there today. Huge difference in the amount of sun I got. So yeah, man, maybe I should go out there and try to wear a hat next time around. Chandler, it's nice to see you in here. I'm really excited to talk about tomorrow as well. Robin Birdie says, can't believe you're not drunk already. Thursday and Friday, I'm holding back. I'm waiting for Saturday and Sunday. If I was drinking out there today, guys, I would not be here for the stream right now. It was really hot. There are people dropping left and right out there. There were carts taking drunk people out of the place the entire day. Obviously, when it gets that hot, people are out there drinking, having a good time. You're going to have some of those old people topple over. That's just going to happen in that type of weather. So there was some entertainment off of the golf course today. That is for sure. Let's go chalk down this week. Crazy sweat. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of chalk went down like a Louis Oosthuizen. Maybe even a Sun JM, right? He might end up missing the cut. You also have a few guys in that 9K range, like Matthew Wolf, who inexplicably is double-digit owned, which makes no sense to me. I mean, the guy was the worst course fit of the entire week. So yeah, I agree, man. A lot of people made mistakes. Robin Birdie says, go Burger. Absolutely agree. Come last night, my highest owned plays on the slate. Number 1 was Daniel Berger. Number 2 is Brooks Koepka. I have an outright bet on Brooks. I also have an outright bet on Berger and Higo. So I'm sitting pretty right now with my bets. And honestly, in DFS contests as well, I'm looking pretty good at this point. So let's go ahead and hop right on into it. I'm definitely a little bit worn out after today. So we're going to try and make this as quick as possible. Still going to give you guys all the info, of course, but going to try and be a little bit more concise this time. Let's go ahead and say that. Corey Graves says, how about Rory Sabatini's outfit? Yeah, man, he looks like a clown out there, but he looks like your average everyday tourist, right? That's like 40, 50 years old. That's a businessman, that kind of thing. Definitely agree. And Matt down here says, for some reason, I'm not sweating Zach Johnson making the cut. I wouldn't count on it, right? So the guys that are at 4 or 5 over par, they're going to have to go out there and have a really good day. Just save yourself the mental patience. Don't count on them going out there and making the cut. If they happen to go out there, surprise you, go out there, shoot 2, 3 under par, let that be a positive, right? Just, yeah, don't count on that. Luke should ask the bar Rory's hat. Yeah, I probably should. Let's go ahead and talk about the course, though. It played just as we would expect, to be honest with you. It played a little bit higher than the scoring average last year. Of course, with the winds that we had today, that was to be expected. And tomorrow, the weather looks very similar. You can see, let's go up to the morning here. You'll see right around 8, 9 a.m., it is going to be relatively calm. Let's go over right around here. You can see it's 9 to 15 miles an hour, a little bit earlier. So they will be teeing off right around 7 a.m. Eastern time. It's only 7 to 9. So when they're getting out there, like you would expect in the morning, going to be pretty good conditions. But as early as 11 a.m., you'll see right here, it turns to shit. You see 9 to 18 miles an hour. By the time you get to 12, it's 9 to 20. And by the afternoon, you're looking at 20 to 25 miles an hour, all the way up until right around 3 to 4 p.m. You can see at 3 p.m., it starts to go down to 18 miles an hour. At 4, it goes down to 16, so on and so forth, until it calms down into the single digits. What that means is that rather than there being an AM-PM split, both waves are going to be hit tomorrow. You can see the guys that are teeing off later in the morning, perhaps closer to 9:30, 10 a.m. Eastern time, are going to get slammed by the wind. Not only will it start to pick up about an hour after they tee off, it will be sustained the whole way throughout the end of their round. That also means that the guys that are teeing off at the beginning of the afternoon wave are also going to get slammed. They're teeing off right around 11:30 a.m., some of them even closer to 11:15 a.m., which means, of course, they're going to be in the brood of the storm when it's starting to kick up. And for the first 3 to 4 hours of their round are going to have tough conditions. On the flip side, some of the players teeing off really late in the day, closer to 1:30, even 2 p.m. Eastern time, could have very solid conditions for a majority of their round, much like the guys at 6:50 a.m. that are teeing off and are going to have at least 12 to 13 holes played before that wind starts to come in. So it's an interesting situation. It's something that we haven't seen on this channel for quite some time, where the split isn't really AM, PM. It's about what actual tee time they have. That means when you're trying to figure this out, you're going to have to actually look up when these guys are playing and make sure it's either really early in the day or really late in the day. I do think it's going to be significant. And that's the key factor here, because you're talking about 7 to 8 miles an hour at the early morning and late afternoon and 15 to 25 miles an hour in the middle of the day. It does make a big enough difference to go ahead and take a look at. So when we start to go through some of these targets, keep in mind that I don't know all the tee times off of the top of my head, but in general, I'm going to try and take at least 3 players in every single lineup, especially when I'm building tomorrow morning. A lot of my lineups are going to be built by hand because of the interesting situation we have. We're going to have at least 3 players that are in that situation. Now, the other 3, I'm not going to make every single player in that pool because you're only dealing with maybe 20 total groups at most that are going to fall into those tee times. A lot of them are going to be in the middle. I mean, of the 60, 50 groups that they have out there, a majority of them are going to be in the middle of the day. So it's not going to be ideal. We're not going to have a ton of people to choose from, but we'll talk about some of the guys that fit that bill. Let's go ahead and move into the player pool now. We'll catch up on chat before we start discussing it. 1 second. There we go. All right, let's catch up on chat. So Aaron says, how's the wind tomorrow morning, afternoon? Hopefully that answers your question there. It's pretty nasty. 15 to 25 miles an hour is stronger than what we saw today. Tom has a lineup for us, which looks pretty solid. I like Keith Mitchell's upside. I think Alex Norton and Aaron Wise are good candidates to bounce back. And I also really like Taylor Moore. So yeah, we'll talk about all those plays there. I think it'll be a contrarian lineup, and I think in terms of upside, you're doing the right thing. Continental says tomorrow will be a day of pain and suffering. I hope so, especially some of the pin locations on the bear trap are going to be testy. I mean, they're going to be feisty. I mean, there's no way that people are going to get through that without having some type of a casualty. The pin location on 16 is right on the front right, which is the hardest pin location by far there. It brings over right into play. It also brings short right into play as well for any mishits, which of course will be on the water. And then on hole 17, another par 3. That the first one was a par 4. The next par 3 is ridiculous. They have it on the front left, which of course brings the water into play on that hole. So rather than having these easy pin locations that we saw on Thursday, I mean, again, the scoring average was still well over par. We're going to see madness tomorrow. More wind, harder pin locations, hopefully firmer and faster conditions as well, as you would expect in Florida as it gets more and more sun on this golf course. And I heard from one of the field staff today, I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier, they're not watering the golf course tonight. I heard that from a primary source, somebody that was working on the golf course. They do not plan to water it with fire trucks. All the fire trucks are already out of there. So I do expect it to get more firm and more fast. So as a result, Aaron, I do think the cut line is going to be +3. As of right now, a lot of modeling will tell you that it will be +2, specifically Data Golf, who, of course, I use for a lot of my analysis. But based on what I saw in person, based on what the field staff told me, where they're not going to go out there and water these greens, you're going to see some madness. So I think it could very well get to +3, +2 at the very least. I don't see it staying at +1. And yeah, there you go, Barry. Could you see it getting to +3? Absolutely. I think it could also get to +4. I think that's definitely in the cards. I mean, guys, if it's windy the entire day tomorrow, not just in the middle of the day, like a lot of the forecasts are saying as of right now, it could be +4 tomorrow. I'm not kidding. We've seen that at this golf course before. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Based on pin positions, yes, the pin positions are ridiculous. So yeah, I do think it might have +3, +4. Especially the bear trap. If you guys go look at the pin sheet, they have tweeted it on PGA Tour comms. Number 6 is a really difficult pin location. That's the par 5 that was turned into the par 4, which played nearly 4.5 strokes today on that par 4. That could play close to a 5 tomorrow. Bear trap could play a whole stroke harder tomorrow. Would not surprise me at all. And hole number 3 is even more difficult. That was the par 5 on the front 9. They took the pin from middle right and pushed it to back right. And the back right location there, number 3, is a peninsula. It's a very small surface. It also has a lot of undulation. You cannot stop a golf ball on that plateau. It's impossible. You literally have to hit the perfect shot. So that's why I say it's impossible. Obviously, you can still do it if you hit the perfect shot. But yeah, we're going to see higher scores for sure. And Matthew says, bounce back day for Louis, and I like Ryan Palmer and Lee Westwood. I do like Palmer and Lee. Louis looked like a complete train wreck. I hope he turns it around, but like I said, I'm not going to get my hopes up because this is a difficult golf course. Tracking down the cut line is difficult to do, but Whoever goes out there and does it tomorrow and ends up surprising us, I'm going to be happy with it. All right. And yeah, in the last comment we'll see here, Mitchell got killed by the bear trap. Imagine tomorrow with these pin locations, how many people are going to look like Keith Mitchell did. So yeah, that's why I think the cut line has a legit shot of being +3 or even +4. All right, let's hop into the player poll now. So really, it's Showdown, right? So I like talking about this at the beginning because I think it's something important to note, particularly for anybody new at Showdown. You should be fading the chalk in Showdown every single time because the chalk every time you play Showdown is just you play ball in round one. And sometimes there's something to be said for that. Of course, if the stats are pointing to somebody really being in a groove, like it did for Joaquin Neiman last week, you can substantiate and you can at least think about playing somebody that played well round one. On the other hand, when you have somebody like a Chris Kirk, who his approach play for half of his holes looked great today. I also saw him hit some of the worst golf shots I saw pretty much anyone in the field today. So he mixed in 7 birdies, of course, with plenty of bogeys on his card today. So I'm not going to be playing him if he's going to be 20% owned. And of course, I'm not going to be playing Kurt Kitayama down here. Where is he? Down here, I only have him at 10.3% right here. I would not be surprised if he comes in 20% owned tomorrow. When people have a good round in round one, when they play Showdown in round two, they treat them like they're Tiger or Phil Mickelson in their prime. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, Berger up here, you can see I'm at 28%. And of course, Daniel Berger is a little bit of a different scenario. Much like a Joaquin Neiman, he is somebody that can go out there and back up that type of round. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world, particularly in this type of field. On the other hand, somebody like a Chris Kirk that is not used to doing that type of thing, and especially so somebody like a Kurt Kitayama, those are the exact type of people we're looking to fade. So in Showdown in general, we're looking to have more of a game theory type of stance than anything, not necessarily so much the projections, because when we're dealing with a 1 round sample size, anything can happen. I mean, you saw today, Louis Oosthuizen shot 5 over par. You saw Sungjae Im shoot 4 over par. Sungjae's never missed a cut here. He has a win here, of course. He also has multiple top 25 finishes. Louis Oosthuizen, he doesn't quite have the course history here, but his first event back after 3 months on the bench over there at the Waste Management, he finished top 20. We surely wouldn't have expected him to shoot over par yesterday, but that's what happened. That's what happens in Showdown. So you have to be able to embrace that type of volatility, try and get different from the field, because that's the only way you're going to take anything down. And really the only quote unquote chalk that I'm taking tomorrow is going to be Daniel Berger, just because of the price tag. It makes no sense that he's $9,900. He went down in price. He had the round of the day. If he's going to be 100% healthy, which I told you guys on Wednesday that he looked as healthy as he was going to be, that he's going to be one of the best plays on the slate week in and week out, particularly, I mean, even at that type of ownership, particularly because people think he's hurt. So I saw a lot of people this morning, I'm not going to call them out and be like, oh, Berger's 20% owned. People really think with that bad back, he's going to go out there and have a good tournament. Yeah, he's 1 shot off the lead. We got him at 20% ownership rather than 35% ownership. And my 65% of Berger this week looks pretty damn good. Of course, I went and I messaged those people on Twitter, the touts that were saying that, just to rub it in, because it's just a bad take. We knew that he was healthy. Like I saw it with my own eyes that the guy was healthy yesterday. Why wouldn't he have been a good play? And the tout that said that, by the way, I personally reached out to them telling him he was healthy because he's a buddy of mine, and he decided to just ignore it. So the fact that he tried rubbing that in this morning and I could get him with that sweet revenge was just awesome. And yeah, I'm going to expect to do that going forward. I mean, if people are still going to be hesitant, and my reaction, his reaction when I sent him that, by the way, was, oh, watch tomorrow, he'll start grabbing the back. People are really going to hold on to that. They're going to die on that hill, it seems. So if he's only going to be 28% owned tomorrow, you could argue that's actually a little bit too low. Like I said, if he didn't have the back injury this week to begin with, Berger probably would have been 35 to 40% owned in 4-round GPPs. I mean, that's the type of play he is for that price. And again, he got a $500 price decrease for whatever reason. Makes absolutely no sense. A few guys up top I won't be playing. Sungjae Im doesn't really make the most sense to me. I mean, he didn't look good in round one. I hope he has that bounce back round. If you're playing the game theory game, that's why I don't have him out of my player pool. It would make sense. But because he is because he has the highest salary of anyone on the board, I would not be surprised if he still gets a fair amount of ownership. You can see I still have him at 16.5%, particularly a lot of the casuals that are playing Showdown from round to round. They love clicking those guys up top. Sungjae Im is a very recognizable name. Everybody knows who he is, even guys that aren't huge golf fans. So I expect him to get a fair amount of rostership. Same thing with Joaquin Neiman. I mean, obviously last week's winner. he looked sharp to begin his day. I was getting a little bit worried about Joaquin Niemann going back to back after about 8 holes there. I believe he was in the lead after his first 8 holes. Of course, he came back to the field, right? He's somebody who's inaccurate off the tee. He's not very good around the green. Just like last week wasn't a good course fit for him, he was due to see that regression. And of course, he lasted the 4 rounds over there at the Genesis without seeing that regression, but you really saw that today. I mean, again, when the guy's on his game, because he's so good with that ball striking, he's going to do things like he did at the Genesis, like he did at the Greenbrier all those years back. But a majority of the time, it's going to cost him. He just doesn't have a polished enough game. That's why in the President's Cup, again, I don't want to be a dick about this. I hope he's on the President's Cup team because in match play, he's going to get murked. You can't have that type of game and get away with it in a match play. You're going to get exposed by the people that are a little bit more well-rounded. Brooks Koepka at $9,400 makes sense. He also saw a price decrease for whatever reason, even though he was towards the lead when they came out with the pricing. So at $9,400, he's very easy to fit into lineups. I do expect him to be chalkier than somebody like a Oosthuizen or, of course, a Sungjae Im, but the ball striking today was insane. I mean, some of the shots he was hitting looked like vintage Brooks Koepka, especially on 18. He hit a 270-something yarder, I'm not sure exactly, 4-iron into the wind and hit it actually over the green. And that was into a rate around a 20-mile-an-hour head breeze. So he has that power. A lot of the power that escaped him because of that knee injury is clearly back in the swing. And Brooks Koepka, when he's hitting bombs, is somebody to be feared. His ball striking is unmatchable when he's at that level. In fact, on hole number 5 today, which is a 360-yard par 4, he nearly drove the green. He hit it to literally right in front of the greenside bunker, hit a little chip shot over the green right to about 3 or 4 feet. Of course, missed the birdie putt, but that's how he can impose his will on a golf course, because he has that type of power. And at this Honda Classic with such a weak field, he's one of maybe 2 to 3 guys. I mean, Cameron Young at this point, believe it or not, is one of those guys because he has so much power that can go out and do that type of thing. So I do like that. I think Brooks Koepka, even in really tough conditions tomorrow afternoon, could go ahead and post something low. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat here. Mitchell, yeah, we touched on that one before. Do we think we could see people shoot +2, +6 again who sucked, and people who shot -5 again, or it would be a toss-up? Usually that's not the case, Chandler. So that's kind of like what I was saying before. Usually the guys that are shooting +5, -4, see that negative regression. And usually the guys that had a really bad round see the positive regression. It doesn't happen every single time, right? You're going to have people that go out there and play terribly for all 3 rounds. But more often than not, you see the flip side happen there. Dropping Birdie says 333 lineups with Louis exposure. That is not what you want to be doing. Sweet Lou will bounce back a bit. I hope so, guys. Like I said, I'm not counting on it just because the conditions are tough, right? To make up 3 or 4 strokes is a lot more difficult at this course than it is at other courses, but hell, I would love to see it. Matthew says, man, Hudson Swafford had a rough start today. The first guy I saw when I walked in the golf tournament on the first tee was Hudson Swafford. I saw the +7 on his tag there. He was probably the most mad I've seen a golfer in quite some time. He had his hat. He was like slamming it against his leg there and whatnot. And he turned around, looked at the standard bearer, and told him to take his name off of the board. For the rest of the day, Swafford was not on the board with the scoring. Like when they walk around, they have the guy on the stick. He asked for his name to be removed from it. That's how bad he was playing today. Yeah, I can't touch Swafford, right? If a guy's going to be that mad, you can't do it. I was blocked by 3 touts on Twitter today. I'm surprised more don't block me, especially because I love clowning them, especially when they try to clown me. Sam Ergo says, why not feeling young, gaining approach? So it's the accuracy off the tee. It's the volatility. He had a decent round today. He was able to keep it in play, but he also hit a bunch of shots about 1 or 2 feet from water. I can just tell you from experience, if he got a bad bounce or 2 today, he really could have shot 2 or 3 over par. So I think it's a little bit of fool's gold with Cameron Young. I also think he's going to be a little bit higher on than he should be. Why are you getting the prior player prices from Draftkings? It's the Showdown price that should be correct, no? I mean, I'll double check right now to make sure, but I'm 99% sure these are correct. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm double checking just in case, but I'm 99% sure I'm correct. Because there is no weekend slate up yet. Yeah, no, dude, they're right. I don't know what prices you're looking at. to be quite honest with you, Mac, I don't know what prices you're looking at. Barry says Lowry would be a sneaky low and pivot for round 2. Brooks and Billy Ho. I could see it. I think that he's in play, especially with the course that he has here. No, I had 0 exposure with Louis. I took a stand. Good idea. I actually, in my main lineups, I didn't have any Louis Oosthuizen. Not in any of my $20 lineups. I entered 50 lineups into the main GPP. But in my 150 max, I did have 16% Louis Oosthuizen. But it was in the $5 contest. It really doesn't matter to me. And Unreal, own that shit, yo. Yeah, exactly. What is normally the best Showdown play that you'd recommend? Oh, I'm assuming you mean slate, right? So correct me if I'm wrong there, Matthew. I'm assuming you mean slate. My favorite Showdown slate to play is Saturday Showdown. So, of course, the cuts made, we have less players to focus on, which means I can really deep dive every single player. I can look at all their shots gain metrics. You also have 2 full rounds of metrics for the event to look at, so you have a little bit more of a sample size. But you're also not dealing with the placement points. Sunday Showdown, to me, it's fun. There's a lot of strategy involved. But from a pure projection standpoint, it's a little bit more game theory based than it is projection standpoint. Whereas round 3 Showdown, which is by far my favorite Showdown, it's almost all projection based. So that would be my answer there for sure. All right, let's go ahead and continue down the board here, guys. Sorry about the scare there with the scoring. I'm not sure what the guy was saying. All of these should be right. I mean, there might be like 1 or 2 that might have a typo throughout the whole list of 155 because I have to type them by hand. And there's 155 names. I'm going very quickly. But I would assume all of them are correct, right? I don't make that mistake very often. All right, so Shane Lowry, somebody just mentioned him down the chat. I do like him as a pivot here. The ball striking today was very average. From the holes that I saw, he was hitting them to like 20, 25 feet. He was 2-putting for pars, so it didn't look all that flashy. But at the same time, he was keeping himself in play. He wasn't putting himself behind the 8 ball. And in general, that's when Shane Lowry plays his best. It's when he goes out there and he can lean into that approach play. So at $9,100, he is somebody that I like. Matthew Wolff at $9,200. Don't go to him by any means. He's shot to 81. He's also a head case. He's somebody who really gets in his own head. I don't understand how you couldn't be in your own head after shooting an 81. So that's all I really got to say about him. I hope he turns it around. He's a good kid, but that's troubling. Keith Mitchell at $9,300. He saw a price increase. So he's one of the few people on the slate that actually saw his price go up for Showdown, which is surprising. I think it had to do with his position on the leaderboard after the front 9. I believe was up there in the top 5. He was like 2 or 3 under after hole 9. Ended up completely throwing it away, as Chandler said before. When he got to that bear trap, bit him a lot more than other players in the field, which makes his round look a little bit worse than it was in reality, right? He made a ton of birdies today. He was putting himself in position. Outside of that one really tough hole, he had a solid day. So I do like him at that price tag. I think because he went up in price, people might try to avoid him for that type of reason, but that's what I'm looking at there. Matt Jones is probably somebody you want to avoid. He looked really shaky today. He's looked shaky over the last few weeks as well. Mito Pereira might just be a really good player. He might just be a top 25 player in the world. Like I said at the beginning of the week, he's somebody who I'm going to be backing until he gets that win. I mean, playing him in DFS until he burns us, which he pretty much hasn't to this point. He's only missed 2 PGA Tour cuts on his career. $8,500. The price tag is right. The ownership's right as well. He's there at 15.1%. Will be a key factor in my pool tomorrow. Same thing with Brian Harmon. Somebody to look for a bounce back, right? He didn't have a very solid day. I believe ended up at 2 over par. Wasn't really making any putts. The ball striking that I saw wasn't all that bad. A hole number 15, he hit it to like 4 or 5 feet. And of course, missed the birdie putt. So somebody that typically gains a ton of strokes on Bermuda grass, I could see myself going there. Johnny Vegas and Aaron Wise. Vegas at least looked okay, right? He shot under par, but Aaron Wise, who also shot 2 over par, somebody to look to for a bounce back. He's been excellent at this golf course in the past. Gary Woodland is a local guy. He's sleeping at his home down in Delray Beach tonight. So I do think that there's something to be said for that hometown type of thing. Same thing with Joaquin Neiman. That's also why I considered playing him this week. Didn't make my player pool, but why I at least considered not fading the chalk there. Russell Knox looked really good today. I had a prize picks prop on him that I was really sweating. He missed like his first 3 greens or something like that, and they were all fringes or all intermediate right around the green. So I ended up following him for his last 9 holes, and he hit every single fairway in every single green in regulation. And like I've said on this channel before, I love going to those guys that showed the momentum, right? On their back 9, really started to put it together. Hopefully he continues that momentum tomorrow afternoon. Christian Mazanehu is going to be a little bit chalkier than he should be, but I could see myself playing him. Same thing with Ryan Moore. Both of them had pretty good rounds today. Denny McCarthy, somebody to look to for a bounce back. He was much chalkier in round 4 stuff than he was. He will Then he will be for tomorrow. Of course, he's a ceiling putter, somebody that can get really hot with that flat stick. So I could see myself going there. Lee Westwood looked really good until he fell apart later in the day. The ball striking was there for Lee, which is something that usually evades him. So I like going that direction. Let's catch up on chat real quick. There's a real edge in the late showdown slates too. Yes, because it's usually casuals, people that just couldn't get into the first showdown slate. I usually never play them, to be honest, right? Just to tell you the type of edge that's out there, because first off, pros don't like playing them because it's annoying. You can only play with like half the player pool. And usually it's just people playing out of necessity. And usually it's people chasing their money, right? They went out there, they had a bad round 1, round 2. And that's also why I really like round 3 showdown, is because people, after they don't get their 6 of 6s, they're tilted after the first 2 rounds. They try to chase their winnings, right? They go out there, they try to get their money back. And fortunately, that's when you take even more from them. Tom McDermott says, how's Aaron Wise, Brooks, Denny, Palmer, Moore, and Mackenzie Hughes? Also really like that lineup. I know we just talked about Aaron Wise. Also Denny McCarthy. They're 2 of the higher upside plays on the slate. Is there any way we see Kitayama and Sabatini stay at the top for tomorrow? Of course, there's a chance they go out there and end up leading tomorrow. I mean, if either one goes out there and shoots 3 under par, which of course is well within the range of outcomes, they'd probably end up leading after tomorrow. But more than likely, they go out there at the very most, shoot 1 or 2 under par. Somebody like a Daniel Berger, Chris Kirk, maybe somebody in that 2 to 3 under range ends up catching them. So I'd say that there's definitely a chance, Chandler. I'd say that it's less than 50, though. I don't think that one of those 2 is leading after tomorrow, but I've been wrong before. I was wrong about Joaquin Niemann just about every single round last week. Just want to go ahead and put that one out there. Let's go ahead and keep going down a little bit further down the board. Michael Thompson at $7,400 is somebody who makes sense. Very accurate off the tee, good on Bermuda grass. The ball striking was all right today. So perhaps he goes out there and looks a little bit sharper in that department tomorrow. Lucas Glover had a very solid round. He's a great course fit. The course history is pretty solid for him as well. Charles Howell III is a good course fit, precise off the tee. He's also a spike putter, much like a Denny McCarthy, who, when he gets hot with that flat stick, tends to make them in bunches. So perhaps he goes out there and has a little bit of a spike performance. Brendan Steele, that same type of player, really hot putter when he gets it rolling. And Brendan Steele has insane course history. His recent form is one of the worst in the field. You see that's why he's there at number 127 in the field. But at the same time, his course history is on another level. And today really didn't look all that bad. He wasn't sharp by any means, but he also was far from somebody like a Zach Johnson, who I will be going back to. He looked pretty horrible today. I mean, Zach Johnson was missing greens left and right. He actually got up and down quite often when he was missing greens. But if you miss 12 of your 18 greens, it's going to be hard to not shoot 4 or 5 over par like he ended up doing today. So he definitely needs to turn that around. He's an elite course fit. You can see he's top 20 in that category. He's an elite putter on Bermuda grass as well. Also has elite course history. So really a lot of things pointing up to him. That's why we played him this week. But at the same time, golf's a volatile sport. There's just going to be plays that go wrong from time to time. I mean, guys wake up on the wrong side of the bed. They just have a bad day. Every single one of us does from time to time. So you got to give them a break. They're not machines. They're not robots. They're going to have bad days from time to time. So perhaps tomorrow's the day to go back to him. Adam Svensson's a local. He's played this golf course quite a bit. I can tell you he has a massive following of people going around the course supporting him, that type of thing. I'm assuming it's his friends and family, that type of stuff. So anytime he was making a birdie today, you heard it. That was for damn sure. And he made a bunch today. I believe he had 5 birdies on the day. So even though he didn't shoot way under par, I believe at one point he was in the lead, actually. It is actually a much better round than what it looks like. Sabatini is going to be a fade. You can see I have him at 6.9% expected ownership right now. But much like with a Kurt Kitayama, that could come in much higher than that, just based on his position on the leaderboard and what we've seen over the years. Kevin Streelman's somebody I'm looking at because of his hot iron play. He hasn't looked hot of late. He hasn't looked really good at all for the last 2 to 3 months. But when Kevin Streelman has it working, he's capable of putting up some really low rounds. JJ Spawn, not really a highly volatile player, so not really in that same type of vein of player. but I like the course fit. I like the recent form. You can see he's number 13 in the field in that category. So somebody that I will consider. Patrick Rogers, I didn't play for my 4-round stuff, but he is a very aggressive player, and he also tends to play well in windy conditions. We saw that at the Bermuda Championship. Down there at Port Royal Golf Course, we had 20 to 25 mile an hour winds, and he ended up being first round leader at -7. If you can take it to -7 and 25 to 30 mile an hour winds, like we saw there, why not here as well? Well, I'll tell you why. It's a harder golf course, but why doesn't he get it to 3-4 under par? That's definitely well within reason. JT Poston, Kramer Hickok, also people I'm looking at, especially Kramer Hickok. He started off really, really rough today, didn't have his best stuff, but by the end of the day, Kramer Hickok ended up having a respectable day. So I like that momentum on that back nine. Much like I said before, whenever people have that momentum on the back nine, it means a lot to me. Next up, we have Ryan Armour, who was a core play for us this week. I like the modeling. Of course, the recent form was a little bit sneaky. A lot of his missed cuts were just there on the number. And when he made cuts, the approach numbers and the off the tee numbers were pretty advantageous. So we'll be going back to him. He had a really bad round. I shouldn't say really bad. He shot 2 over par. Not really the end of the world, but perhaps he goes out there and has a solid day today. Hinckley Biota, somebody I'm considering because he gets extremely hot with the putter. You can see the PGA National fit is there as well. The recent form's okay. Much better than a lot of his peers. Bronson Burgoon, somebody I'd consider because he's very, very aggressive. Chase Koepka and Curtis Thompson are both guys that have a lot of history here. Chase Koepka has made the cut 3 of his last 4 appearances here, and Curtis Thompson has played this golf course probably about 1,000 times. There on social media, you probably saw it today, but he has been coming to his event every single time that Lexi Thompson's been here. I mean, she actually played this as a professional before. I don't know if you guys remember that. She's one of the few women that's played on the PGA Tour before, and of course, Curtis Thompson, because he's played this a million times. He's tried to Monday qualify for this event over 20 times in his career. This is the first time that he's actually playing the golf course in tournament conditions. He didn't post the best round today, but if there's anybody that's just going to post a 7 or an 8 under round, like go out there and just take apart this golf course, it's somebody that has local knowledge. It's somebody that is from South Florida that plays in the wind all the time, that somebody who I've played rounds with that loves the wind. We were playing in windy conditions, and my boy Curtis, he's not really my friend. He's more my best friend's friend. But either way, when we were playing with him, he was giving us shit because we couldn't hit the ball in the wind. And he, quote unquote, loved it for whatever reason. I don't understand how you love the wind, but the guy hit some good golf shots. I can tell you that much at least. Richie Werenski at $6,200. He's a good course fit. Wesley Bryan has played well at this golf course in the past. You can see the modeling absolutely loves Wesley Bryan, so I'll be going that way. And lastly, Sung Yul No. A lot of you guys are probably like, who? Like, who's Sung Yul No? Again, he was on major medical exemption. We hadn't seen him for quite some time. But in the fall swing, he made a few cuts. He made the cut at the American Express. He's great on Bermuda surfaces. He's also a very accurate driver of the golf ball. In fact, last year, he was number 1 on tour in driving accuracy. Unfortunately, he didn't qualify for the year-long statistics just because he didn't have the biggest sample size. But just in pure numbers, right, just from an actual percentage standpoint, he was number 1 on tour. All right, we've gone through the player polls. Go ahead and catch up on chat. We have some type of a spam bot down there. So let me go ahead and block the spam bot. Sorry about that, guys. Let's catch up on chat and then let's go through some strategy. All right, so first off, we have Chandler saying, anyway, we see Kitty. Oh, we talked about that one before. Matthew says, let's go, Zach. I have that 100 free bet for the top 20. Yeah, dude, I remember you posting that. Dude, I thought you had that on Vegas for a second. I remember I mentioned Vegas to you. But yeah, let's go, Zach. That'd be awesome, man. Especially because it's a free bet, right? The best bets are free bets. And how owned do we think will it be? I got him at 7.76% in the 20 max. Whatever his showdown ownership would look like. So my algorithm, let me see where I have him. That is a good question. He's probably going to come in higher than the algorithm. So I have him at just 2.7% right now. But much like a Sabatini, much like what we saw with Kurt Kitayama, they usually come in even higher owned, at least the guys at the top end of the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to 4 or 5% or even 6% ownership. But I don't see him coming in double digit. I mean, he's towards the top of the leaderboard, but he's not number 1 there. He's also somebody who's not really a big name, but he's also a little bit more expensive than some of the other guys. I mean, what's Kitayama's price? Isn't he like $6,300 or something like that? $6,500. So I guess it's only a $300 difference. but he's towards the bottom of the leaderboard. I mean, the guys like around him, I mean, he's quote unquote head and shoulders a better player than everyone around him because, again, everyone thinks that Kurt Kitayama's Tiger Woods at this point. Now that he had that good round one, yeah, I'd say right around 4 or 5% for somebody like a Bullet, probably 10 to 15% for somebody like a Kitayama, that type of range. Thoughts on Christian Mazane? I think he's an all right play. He's about as average as a play as you're going to get here. As of right now, I have him down as a blank, so not somebody that I'm prioritizing, also not somebody that I'm actively fading. He's an average play. That's really all I got for you on that because I don't hate the play. I sure as crap don't love it. I think there's people that like a whole lot more on the slate, but if you're leaning towards Christian Mazane, I certainly wouldn't try to talk you off of it. I think it does make sense. And Matt says I switched for sure. Dang it. That's all I'll say. Dang it, man. But you got much better odds for the Zach Johnson. See, that's the thing is in terms of value, the Zach Johnson bet made a whole lot of sense. The only reason I told you to do the Vegas bet is because it was just like more of a lock. It was more of like something he does like every year. But yeah, the odds on that were crap. I mean, you were paying the rake on that. That's for sure. So I can't really blame you for doing what you did. All right, let's go ahead and hop over to DraftKings. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategy. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Oh, I need to bring up DraftKings. 1 second. I brought it up to check the prices before, guys, and ended up taking it down. So 1 second. Bear with me here. I see you have a question down chat, which cover while I'm bringing it up here. Chandler says, "Saw in chat, you said think cut line is +3, so you still believe that?" Yes, I do think it's still going to be +3. I think it might even be +4. So I mentioned that towards the beginning of the stream. The reason why I think it might even be +4 is the pin locations tomorrow are borderline impossible. You're dealing with extra wind, should be a little bit firmer and faster because they're not going to be watering the greens tonight. So it should at least get to +2 guaranteed. I think +3 is well within the cards. But like I said, if everything goes the right way, +4 is even in the cards. So yeah, I'd say anything in that +2 to +4 range most likely would be +2, then +3, then +4 in that order. Did I share the right screen? No, I didn't. Sorry, guys. The software is being funny. There we go. Now it's the right screen. All right. Let's go ahead and make some lineups. So we're going to start off with the GPP lineup. We're going to start off with a large field contest. So this would be max multi-entry, 150 max type of thing. Then we'll do a single entry GPP, and then we're going to do a cash lineup. So that'll be the usual going forward. So for our large field contest, as usual, we are going to want to make sure we're seeing at least a little bit contrarian, right? Not taking all the chalk together, but also making sure that we're taking guys that can take down a 20 to 30,000 entry contest. In terms of target score, I'd say 4-5 under par is what we're looking for from every player in the build, which means that I don't love going to Sanjay. I don't love going to Louis Oosthuizen. Because they had the bound round one, I mean, for them to shoot 7-8 under par, that would be quite the turnaround. Daniel Berger is going to be extremely chalky. So if we're talking about a large field contest, I'm going to start here in the 9K range. Because like I said, Brooks Koepka is somebody I absolutely love. Keith Mitchell, I like what we saw from round one as well. And even Shane Lowry, he's going to be extremely low owned. If we take these three together, it's almost inherently making us unique. I mean, a lot of people are going to try and take somebody from that 10K range. And because we're taking two of the lower owned guys, like a Mitchell, like a Shane Lowry, could make a whole lot of sense there. So let's go ahead and move further down the board. Now that we've got our core three, we can consider taking an 8K guy. Number one option on my list, at least. I'd be looking at Aaron Wise. I'm not sure if we can afford Aaron Wise. So we'll have to see on that, double check a little bit later. But he'll be somebody to consider. Now towards the bottom of the board, let's go ahead and take very much so a sleeper pick. So somebody $6,400 and below, that's going to be super low owned that I think has a lot of upside. I mean, we talked about a few during the video. I mean, Wesley Bryan was one I identified. Another one I was considering down here, there was a few at like $6,000 I've been considering. I mean, Sung Yul No we talked about a little bit before. Curtis Thompson, Chase Koepka, these are all guys that I'd consider putting in lineups. Even Chase Seifert as well. Kierdeck off and Barnrat. You could do a whole lot worse than that. All right, let's go down to actually, no, I like this pick a lot more. We're going to do the Hank Lebioda. So the reason why I really wanted to go with hammering Hank here is he's got that putting upside. He's somebody that can take it to 6-7 under par. And because we're taking Lebioda, who has putting upside, we're also going to take Denny McCarthy. So we're going to try and correlate this a little bit here. So that leaves us with $7,800 remaining. And I'm going to try and take another putter because I like trying to take guys that have a similar skill set. The three guys up top are studs. I don't really see a need to try and correlate those. But if the guys down low, more of our value or even middle tier options, those are guys that I'm actively looking to correlate. So they could try to use Ryan Palmer. Leaving $200 on the table is also something that I do like the idea of. Right. Ricky Fowler is also somebody I'd consider. Believe it or not, he's also fitting that mold of somebody that can get really hot with the putter. But yeah, let's go ahead with Ryan Palmer. This is somebody that this is a lineup feel a little bit safer about. Now, if you wanted to be a little bit wild, you're okay with throwing away lineup. Ricky Fowler might be the guy just because he's so volatile. He makes a ton of birdies. I mean, he started off 3 under par today. By the end of the day, ended up 2 over par. So again, the scorecard doesn't really show the quality of the round. In terms of his actual play, how good his ball striking was, he was much better than somebody that shot 2 over par. So I wouldn't mind that. So that's going to be for the large field contest. Let's do a single entry. So now that we're in a smaller field contest, we're assuming probably right around 1,000 entries max for this type of single entry. We don't have to be quite as unique. So taking somebody like a Koepka, you can still do. I mean, he's going to be relatively chalky. I mentioned before that Horschel with his ball striking in round 1 could also make a whole lot of sense. So we're going to take those 2 chalky options. We're not going to have to really worry about it nearly as much. So rather than taking a Shane Lowry, that's going to be that lower owned option. Let's go ahead and take the plays that I think are the best on the slate. So I talked about Aaron Wise before. I talked about Mito Pereira as well. I think both of them insane ball strikers, exactly what we're looking for in windy conditions. That leaves us with $6,900 remaining per player. Let's go ahead and find somebody in the $7,100, $7,200 range that's fitting this type of build. And based on the guys that we have in this lineup so far, ball striker. Koepka's obviously a ball striker. Horschel, I mean, he might not be the longest hitter on tour, but he's very precise with his irons. Let's make sure we're taking somebody that is solid with his approach play. So somebody that immediately jumps off the board to me. I almost called him Charles Schwab. Matthias Schwab there at $7,200. If there's anything he's known for, it is the iron play. We can consider that. Alex Smalley's been a very solid approach player. Dylan Fratelli's been pretty good this week with the irons. Let's go ahead and take Smalley, though. Smalley's going to be extremely low owned. He did look really sharp, especially on his front 9 today. And that puts us at $6,600. And because this is a single entry contest, we're not dealing with that many dupes out there. Only 1,000 people we're competing with. I'm not as worried about leaving salary on the table. I know we used Libiota before. He would make sense once again. JT Poston, somebody I like. Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll put Libiota in there. It's not like I'm locking Libiota in my Showdown lineups tomorrow, but just based on the salary that we had remaining, he'd be somebody that I'd be plugging in there. So I like this lineup a whole lot. The only real difference between this lineup and then, of course, the one that we first rolled out is this lineup's a lot more chalky, right? You're looking at right around 20% for these 2 guys up top. Aaron Wise and Pereira also right around 15% a piece there too. So in total ownership, you're probably over 80% here. Whereas that first lineup we made, where I was trying to take some of those ownership pivots, you're probably looking at right around 60% projected ownership altogether, which those are going to be my goals for each contest. 60% for large field, 80 to 90% for some of these smaller field or single entry type of contests. And now for cash, which of course is a completely different ballgame. I almost want to stay in the 8K range. This is a weird golf tournament. This is a tournament where you need to just get maybe even par or 1 under par from your guys to end up optimal in cash. And I just want to take the guys that are the safest plays on the slate. So for me, the safest play is Aaron Wise comes to mind just because of his ball striking acumen. Going up a little bit further down the board, Brooks Koepka makes sense because of just his pedigree. He's somebody who is used to these major championship type of conditions, knows how to score when the wind gets up there. A few other guys that are really safe plays. I mean, Brian Harman is typically an extremely safe player, really solid ball striker. Doesn't typically shoot 5 or 6 over par. It's usually 1 or 2 over par or 4 or 5 under par, somewhere in that range. Isn't as volatile as some of his peers there. A little bit further down the board, I mean, Christian Bazane, who makes a whole lot of sense. Great course fit. He had a really solid round 1. Also should be relatively high owned. Another safe play in this range we could go to would be Johnny Vegas. Like I said before, he makes the cut here every single year and pretty much posts a top 25 every year as well. And at $7,500, our last man in, Chris Kirk. I mean, why not, right? The guy's at the top of the leaderboard. He's playing some good golf. He's accurate off the tee, usually pretty solid with his approach play. I know he's going to be chalky, but we don't have to worry about that here in cash. So this is the type of lineup I'd be going with. The cheapest guy is $7,400. Our most expensive is $9,400. So not a huge difference there, not a huge range from our top to low end guys there, but that's by design. That's what you want to be doing in cash contests, unless there's somebody up here in this 10K range who's just a must play. This is really more the case in Sunday Showdown. If somebody has like a 5 or a 6 shot lead, like Joaquin Niemann did last week, then you want to go out there and lock in that guy up top, right? But it's not the circumstances type of round. We're in round 2 Showdown. There are no placement points in play. So that's going to be our take for cash. We'll go ahead and catch up on chat real quick. Said thoughts on Fowler. He did look good today, but I didn't see much. How did he look today? I didn't see much of him. He looked really good early on. He was 3 under par through 9 holes, ended up completely throwing it away on the back 9. So that's why I want to go back to him. Even though he has that negative juju, that negative momentum there in the second half, he at least showed something. And it's not like he's a 9 or a 10K option, right? He's somebody who is in that 7K range. It's more of a flyer pick than anything. In Showdown, when we're willing to take those type of risks, that's something I'll be doing. And Chandler says, what are your thoughts on taking somebody like a Todd, Louis, Kadira, Im, who are +4 or more, but they can go out there and push to make the cut? I'm not sure it's the motivation to make the cut that would make me want to play them, but more so the fact that they're going to be low owned. We usually do see some positive regression from the guys that end up playing some bad rounds. I'm okay with it. Yeah. So again, I don't think the reason why you want to play them is because they're going to go out there and push to make the cut. I think everyone out there is going to be trying to shoot their best score. But yes, I'd be willing to play those players. That's for sure. And we have some Aaron Rye thoughts. Let's go ahead and touch on that. Great question. And we're going to take questions and then hop out of here. So if there's any other questions that you guys are thinking of, go ahead and put them down in chat. We'll touch on whoever you guys are thinking of and then get out of here. So first off, Aaron Rye, who, there he is, found him real quickly. He's $7,400. Recent form is fantastic. He's top 10 in the field. Model rankings top 40, which for the 36th ranked player on the board isn't all that bad. You can see the total model rankings a lot higher there. He shot 3 under today. He's good in windy conditions. I can just tell you from experience watching Aaron Rye hit the ball today, he hits the ball low as hell, like lower than Joaquin Niemann low. When he hits it, you look up for the golf ball, and it's at head level at times. That's how low he hits it. I do like the play. I actually have him right down here as a blank as of right now, but I would imagine come tomorrow, especially if the wind is as severe as I'm expecting tomorrow morning, we'll make the player pool. So I like that call right there, Tom, especially in these windy conditions. And he says Patrick Rogers. So yeah, Patrick Rogers, I touched on him there for a little bit. He also played really well at the Bermuda Championship at Port Royal in some really tough conditions. It was about 20 to 25 mile an hour winds on round 1 there, and he was the first round leader. So for similar reasons to where I like Aaron Rye, I also do like Patrick Rogers. Matthew says smash the like button. I absolutely agree. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash the like button. And Chandler says 5 subs away from 900. Yeah, dude. I hit 400 subs a month and a half ago. The fact that we've doubled that in it's like 38 days is just ridiculous. You guys are the best. You guys are super supportive. I can't appreciate you guys enough. But if you haven't already subscribed, hey, if you want to be one of those guys to get us there to 900, that'd be super appreciated. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that as well. If there's not any more questions, I'll give it another minute to see if anyone else has any questions to put down in chat. If not, we'll go ahead and get out of here. I guess a few closing thoughts. I'll let you guys go ahead and put any of those questions down there. Is leave salary on the table, right? If you're going to go ahead and take chalk, you want to play guys like a Daniel Berger. You really like Kurt Kitayama for whatever reason, the guy who's made like 2 cuts in his PGA Tour career. Just make sure you leave salary on the table. Always a proponent for just playing the guys that you like, the guys that you think or have a hunch on that day, play them, right? There's people I get questions all the time like, oh, I really like this guy this week. What do you think about him? And I always respond, and a lot of times it's not positive, right? Sometimes I'll have something negative to say about a player because I don't think they have the best week. And usually the response is, oh, okay, I'll go fade them then. Usually my response back is, you don't need to go ahead and fade them. Play them on a hunch. Sometimes hunches work, right? But if you're going to play somebody, and let's say the reason I was fading him was ownership based. Let's say he was like 30, 40%, and I was like, oh, I don't want to take that ownership. There's ways to take that ownership and get away with it. Just pivot, leave salary on the table. That would be the number one thing I would do. Or just do it with lineup construction, right? Differentiate yourself by making sure that you're using a lineup construction that a lot of other people won't go to. So that's just something I wanted to go ahead and wrap up there with, because if there's a play on here that you don't agree with, you can still play it, right? It's your own lineups. Go ahead and do your own thing. But if you're taking chalk, there is an unfortunate consequence to that. Just make sure you're handling that accordingly. All right, a few questions I can see went down there in chat. It's a good thing I stalled there for a few seconds. Chandler says, who is your favorite play tomorrow? You can shoot -8 or a +8. Matthew Wolf would be number 1. Number 2 would be Sun JM. Sun JM is either going to go out there and probably have a really solid day tomorrow, or we're going to completely blow up. I think both of those would be my options there. Over-under strokes on Lowry 70, I would take the under for sure. That's even par there at 70. He's somebody who didn't have the best day today, but I really love the course fit there. But definitely be taking the under for sure. Agree with you. And Corey says, what about Higo if the conditions get bad? We don't know enough about Higo, unfortunately. He is a high ball hitter. I can tell you that from watching him play today. But we don't know enough about him yet. So I can't give you a true answer there. And Aaron says, great chat tonight. Love hearing your thoughts. Keep up the great stuff. I appreciate you stopping by, and I appreciate the kind words, man. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because there's no more questions down here. If you guys are watching this on replay and you have any questions that I didn't touch on, go ahead and feel free to comment them down below. I'll see them when I wake up in the morning. I'm going to be going to the golf course awfully early tomorrow. Going to be try and catch the first tee shots out there. So I'll be up. I'll be able to give you guys a response. Good luck with all of your lineups tomorrow. If you guys are playing prize picks, good luck with all of that as well. We will have content for Saturday coming tomorrow. So I'll get home probably right around 6